Alright, this is a video for lab 4, the project part and jaw handle. So we will be making this piece here, right here, and the real thing is here. So let's look at this model. So basically we're gonna have 3 major steps. So the first is the jaw, and the second will be the middle part, including this metal inside the rubber grip. So that'll be the second part, and the third part will be the grip, which is this one. Okay, we're gonna use swept. Okay, so first step, you want to go to web course and download the TIF file as your raster image, so you can trace on the trace your sketch on the image. And if you have concerns over the accuracy, I have verified the overall width and the length to make sure generally the dimension is right. And alright, let's start. So now you have the the image downloaded, and we will start from the first piece. That will be the jaw. Okay, let's start a new file. Alright, now we want this to be in inch model, and somewhere I'll just put on the desktop, and okay, jaw handle. Alright, I have that open, so I'm gonna change the name like so. Alright, and I'm gonna change a little bit the color. So first we will need to create a sketch. As usual, we go down here and XY plane. Okay, so on this sketch we will draw a line to the negative X direction, which will be 1.875 inches in length. So that will be the reference, okay, for adjusting the picture. So next we will insert the raster. Insert the raster image, but we go to View, Visualization, Raster or Raster Image. Okay, we're gonna specify the TIF you just downloaded from web course, and here we're gonna make a little bit change. You want maximum texture size to be 4 meg. I think that's 4 meg, which will give us a finer pixels on the picture. Otherwise, it's gonna be too rough to coarse. Okay, let's just create the raster. It'll be here. Okay, and I guess this will not do in the studio rendering. Alright, that's fine, and we can adjust the position of this image. And also, if your sketch is below raster in the part navigator, I guess what you can do is you can make this translucent. Okay, then double click so we can move this thing around. As to the origin of this part, I will put this right here because that's the big flat surface down here, and pretty much that's the only horizontal surface we can find. Okay. Okay, so for the top, the jaw, okay, we will make 2 sketch. It's the same as lab 3, and let's go ahead.
Start from here, and I'm going to make this straight line. You can say this is idealized model. Okay, and I'm going to stop here and start from the other side. I can go exceed this point and make this parallel to this line. Then I'll drag to match this point. And then to the top I'll put a 3-point arc from here to there. And lastly, just match this. Okay. And a fillet for this corner. And let's see, maybe a fillet for this. Well, okay. Then I'll just trim off those. And yeah, still need to put this arc here. So from here to about here, and I'm gonna make this to the middle of the T. And by the way, if you want to, you can put T on this. And still, I'm gonna cut the one in the middle. Let's hide the raster.
And the last thing is this piece is actually the same as the lower jaw. On the tip, I don't know if you can see clearly. On the tip here, it's actually thinner than the end of the jaw. So we do have a slope on the jaw. So I'm gonna enhance the image a little bit. So you can see there is a line of shadow here. So I'm just gonna draw something that's parallel to what I see, and I'll put it here. Turn this into reference, and if you like, you can trim this off so it will be easier to create a datum on this point. Okay, so that's the reference line, and we are ready to extrude this. But also you can create another sketch first. But here I'm just gonna extrude, and I'll pick this sketch. Symmetric thickness is the same as the lower jaw, so 9/32. Make sure you don't pick subject here, because it's gonna interact with the raster image. Alright, that's the first piece, and I'm gonna hide this. For the second sketch, again, that will be on XY plane here, and so we can start from this point.
Then I'll zoom in here, goes here, and somewhere here. Okay, and you can see this is a little bit off, but just go ahead. And here, so touch down here to the end. Then we can add a arc, or we don't have to, because some students are asking why do we have to have 2 arcs here. So I'm just gonna leave this open, and you can modify this a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, we have 2 round corners here. So I'm just gonna put a little bit fillet here, and it doesn't like the size, so I'm gonna manually type in the size. Alright, and we can pull this thing out a little bit to match the image. And here there is a fillet here also, and you can put this in or not. That's just your preference. Okay, that's not good. I'll just leave it alone.
Alright, now let's finish sketch and do the second extrude. Connected curve, that's okay. Pick this line, and see we still need the arc here, so we're gonna pick this one, which is actually on the first sketch. Okay, now that gives me a problem, and I'll just go back and put the arc back in. 3-point arc from here to here, and that'll be the same as the arc in first one. Okay, you will not necessarily encounter this problem as what I have here, so okay, feel free to do whichever is will make the model. Alright, let's check it, and that's pretty much the jaw, and do not unite. Okay, now we still need to trim off the thickness a little bit. So again, it will be the same as what we did in lab 3. We will create a datum and create a sketch on top of that. Okay. So let's create a datum here, and it's going to be point and the direction. Okay. And by the way, you do have other choices like on curve. I believe that's also feasible on this, but we cannot snap to the reference curve, so I'll just go back to the point and direction, which is vector here. And if you want to match the direction of in the slides, you can just double click and no offset. By default, there's no offset. Okay, and that will be our datum, and then we will start another sketch on top of this datum. And again, we want to specify the orange back to this point. So sketch orange this point. And if you look at this, it's better to have the y-axis the same as this z-axis. Well, goes to the top. All right, that's good enough. And here I'm gonna go back to Studio, maybe. Okay. So we have two lines here. If you look, 3-degree angle for the top or for the small solid. We have 5-degree angle for the bigger solid. So two lines, one from the very top left point, okay, which goes down and is 3 degrees to x-axis. So 3, right? And the second one is on y-axis. So what we can do is we can draw a line on the edge, okay, point on curve. Then you don't want parallel because we have, well, you can because we said dimension is not important, but if you want 5-degree, you don't want to drop it as parallel to the first line, then now we can put in another dimension and then give it a 5-degree angle. And as you can see, it comes back down. So what we can do is we can drag this point onto this curve. Okay, that is one. And the second, we want this line to be on y-axis. So we have point on line constraint. Pick the point, move down, then pick y-axis. Alright, so that's pretty much the sketch. And we can extrude. And last time, some of you had problems where you extrude one direction and this point cannot intersect with the solid fully. So another way is you can do symmetric. So this will ensure the sheet will cover the solid. Alright, now we have two sheets and two solid. We can go ahead and use trim body to cut off the solid. Okay, select the small body first, and then the top face of the sheet. That's for the smaller one. And the second, we will pick the bigger solid and pick the lower sheet body. Click OK, and I'm gonna hide this. Alright, so as you can see, we do have the edge here, and also we can hide this sketch. Now we're gonna mirror this feature to the lower side. So we can use insert, associative copy, and mirror feature. Let's pick both feature here by hold down shift key and then multi-select. Okay, so the plane will be XY plane as usual, and click OK. We can have a look here. So, and bear in mind this face is not horizontal, or it's not normal to what we are looking at. That's why you can see a little bit of the face. Alright, okay. So here's pretty much done for the jaw. Now let's go ahead to move to the handle. So that's the handle, and we are going to chase on the raster again, so we can hide whatever we have previously. So give us a cleaner working space. Alright, now another sketch, XY plane. So let's start from the top.
And remember, the jaw started from the orange. So here I'm going to start from the orange as well. So when you unite those two solids later on, they can actually touch each other. Otherwise, if you have a small gap between them, it's hard to unite. Alright, as you can see, NX will automatically give you a vertical constraint. If you cannot see, I'll show you this constraint here, which is not what we want. So we're going to hover here, and you can see vertical constraint. Click, delete this. And if you look closely at the slides, we do have an angle for that, for you to refer. So 92.5 degrees, which matches okay with the image. Now we go to the right side, or you can just put it really big angle, then give it another angle here. Note it's on this side, so 87.5. So this is all basically you have a pretty well aligned raster image. Okay, and so let's move on to the arc. Okay, we have some arc here, and I'm gonna make this arc longer, and I will use a fillet at this point. So I'm just gonna put this arc in first, which is okay here, and there is another arc here, and we can just simply click this point and click somewhere at this, so we can make this tangent, which is not very good. So I'm gonna move this a little bit. Okay, then we can make it a fillet here, so there's no sharp point here. You can also trim this off, and you can always trim this later on. And we keep going to the right side, which is a really big arc. So let's make this point all the way to about, look at the intersection here, about here. Then let's match in the middle. And if you feel this point is not very right, we can adjust, then drag the middle out a little bit. Or you can right click and where's the modify. Okay, edit curve. Zoom in and zoom out. Okay, that's pretty good to me. Just click OK, and we're gonna put a fillet here, which should match nicely to the image. Then I'm gonna leave this alone for another fillet, so we will use another 3-point arc for the big one. Just put it at general place. Okay, and we can check. This point looks good. That point actually also pretty good. Maybe a little bit outside. Okay, now let's deal with this fillet. And I think it matters which side you pick first. If you pick like this, so left first, right. If you pick right first, alright. Then, as long as we get what we want. Okay, so all we need to do is this section now. And let's see. We do have something like this. Okay, let's start from, you can see the transition between two arcs. So from here, 3-point arc, from about here to a point on the curve, and make it fit. Then come back and drag this a little bit, then come down to the bigger arc here, then it should be around here if you extend this arc all the way to this line. And yes, we do want a tangent, so let's drag this, or we can add it, make this point. Okay, alright, then fillet. So once you have one command active, the rest is not flicking or flashing anymore. So that's a nice way to look at the image. Here, corners. Okay, now let's hide the raster and have a look. It's pretty much everything, and next is going to be the slot. So let's go back, and we want the slot here. Again, 3-point arc. Okay, from the transition where we can see the arc comes to about here, then comes down to here, and then we will match in the middle point. Alright, so now we have one side. As to the other side, since this is an assembly hole, we will fit something inside this hole, or this slot. So we want to make sure the dimension of this. So that'll be okay, 0.13 inch offset curve. Okay, and you have to hit enter to make this work in the preview. Okay, so that will be the slot, even though it's not matching nicely, and we did measure the slot. So next step is going to be the fillet. As I said before, you want to pick the fillet from with order. So right side first. It always goes counterclockwise, I think. So we pick the right first, left, so it goes this way. But when we go to the bottom, you won't always go counterclockwise. If you pick it the other way, it's going to give you flip arc.
Alright, so that's what we got. We still have two reference lines. Why do we need those lines? Because if you look at this, we have a small step here. We will use trim body command. So that's why we need a sketch, which needs a datum plane. Alright, so as you can see, we can actually see the step from the top view. So I'm gonna draw a line. Well, I'm not in the sketch, so let's go back to the sketch, straight line, and make this about parallel first. And I don't want the perpendicular constraint, so okay, and another line. Now this time you want those two lines to be parallel. Alright, you can zoom in to fine-tune the position of the lines, and later on now we are going to turn this to reference. And as you can see, we do have trace, the slot size, and two parallel reference lines. Then we're going to extrude into the solid here. Symmetric value, the thickness 3/16, and none here, and then we can click preview so we can have a look. Alright, okay, next step we're gonna make the steps, which is the same as the jaw. We need a datum. I guess on the other side, actually each side is fine, so as long as it's normal to the lines, and we are going to follow what we see in the slides. So it's about this angle. Here I'm gonna hide the solid as well as the raster, and we're going to make the datum at this point. Okay, make sure you have the intersection on. So intersection point, and the vector will be this line also. So go back to inferred, otherwise it will not pick up the line. invert, click this line, and not this, so I want to pick the line. Alright, and as you can see, we have the normal direction of the data go that way, so it doesn't really matter, but it will matter when you create a sketch on top of this data. So click the data, specify the origin. Okay, let's pick this, and as you can see, that's why our sketch is flipped. It's because of the coordinate system. If I leave it like this and click OK, it will still rotate back to this position. Okay, anyway, so as you can see, that's really flipped. Okay, we want to make the side with the slot is thicker, side goes to the jaw is thinner, so that's about this position. And I did flip the coordinate system, which is different from what we have in the slide, but anyway, we know where this line goes. That's enough. So first will be a horizontal line. Although this is not horizontal now, but if you look to the sketch orientation, you can see it's horizontal. And since this is pretty well 3D, so I'd like to draw this sketch in the 3D view. So, and also you want to make sure this line is actually a lot longer than this piece. So if you look at this way, you want this line will be able to cut into the solid. Okay, and we want this line to be this reference line to be the start of the step. Okay, like this here. So we'll put a constraint here, point on curve, the point on y-axis. Okay, and a dimension between the line to x-axis. That'll be right here. So zoom in, that's 1/8 or 0.125. Okay, and that goes, the step goes up, so which is about like this. Okay, and we do want another dimension for this, so we can draw a reference line. So the dimension is actually from the projected point of this line to the intersection of this tilted line. So first we will need a straight line goes up, a reference line. We can snap to this point, which will start that line like this. You might say, why it's here instead, not there? And that's out of our sketch. Remember, our sketch is only a plane. And if you look straight, Shift F8. Okay, and I'm gonna rotate up. You can see I snap to the end point of this line here, but eventually it will project onto our sketch, which is here. So it's vertical line here. I'm gonna turn this to reference, trim this off, then give it a dimension, which is 3/16. Alright, that will be enough for this sketch. So let's extrude this. We can just extrude from within the sketch. And this time you also want to make sure the sheet is big enough to cover the handle solid. Okay, and as you can see, why we need a long horizontal line here. Okay, and trim body, pick solid first, pick the face and both face. Okay, I don't know which is the default, but if you see the error here, I'll do this again. Pick a solid, pick a face. If you click here, you will get alert because you didn't pick this tilted one. Now that's enough, and we can switch direction, and it's done. So I'm gonna hide this and insert a mirror feature for the trim body, and that will be XY plane. Okay, so now you can see that's the general shape of our handle. And next will be the grip. Alright, now here comes our grip, which is a big swept part. And as you can see here, first we needed 4 datums for 4 sections for the swept. So here I'm gonna hide the extrude here, and we need the datums, okay, which we will use on curve method, and then we're gonna build this datums on this curve. So there's really no position for those curves except the first one you want to be about at the middle of this this slot. So I just resize the datum. By the way, it's just for visual only. The size of the datum really doesn't matter. So if you accidentally dropped this already, you can double click and go back. And I think that's pretty good enough. Fade, that's about the middle. And okay, then we can do this again. So datum plane, that's the history of your recent commands. Sometimes you can just click here if your command is some deep down menu somewhere. That's the second one. And okay, for the third, that's about, if you look at here, maybe a little bit higher towards the jaw. So I want a little bit lower. That's about like this. And for the last one, okay, and you can see why our grip has multiple cross section. Okay, and that will be the end of this, but we want this to be a little bit further, so we're gonna use the set offset option. You can use -0.3 inch, okay, and it's here also. Alright, so now we have 4 datums for 4 sections. So we're gonna start for sketch. Now let's first build this sketch, and I'll just leave this coordinate system where it is by default, and just check if this one is actually aligned with the x-axis, the absolute x-axis. Okay. Alright, and for this kind of sketch I do want to draw in a 3D view, and we can hide the datums we're not using yet. Okay, so for the first sketch, it's like a box. So I'm gonna use a rectangle tool, and you don't want to snap to anything yet. So like this, and we can put in the dimension here, can zoom in here a little bit. So width 0.8, height 0.6, then it should be aligned in the middle. So we will add a constraint here, the what do you call this, midpoint, and we will make the sketch orange as the midpoint of this line, so or align with the midpoint of this line. That's how we make this rectangle centered. Okay, as you can see, this can still move around on the X direction. So, and we said that we want to intersect 2 points. Actually, only one is needed. So we have intersection point here, which will give us a point where this curve intersects with our sketch. So if you click and OK, you cannot really see, but it's there at this point. It's a small cross. So if you hover here, you can see point, okay, point of intersection point. And we can make this into reference. That way you can see it clearly. And we need another dimension from the left side to this point. That will be 0.25 inch. That's nice, fully constrained, and we have 4 fillets with the same radius. So 0.15, hit enter, and 4 corners. Done. Let's move to the next datum. So I'm gonna hide this, show the second datum. I also need the first sketch. So now they are not on the same plane. We're gonna build another sketch on this datum, leave the coordinate system as default. Okay, again, okay, for the second datum, the only thing we need is really this line here on the right side. We want those to be aligned, so it will be flush when you do the swept. So I'm gonna project this curve from the first sketch. So let's go to project curve, and here you want to make sure you pick single curve, otherwise you're gonna project the whole thing. So single curve, pick this one, apply, and you can see where the line goes. We can turn this to reference, or yeah, let's just turn this to reference. Okay, then again, there's gonna be another box. So rectangle, do not snap to any point of the previous sketch. Something like this. I can type in the width is 1 inch, as shown in the slides. And the height is 0.75 inch. Okay, 0.75. Hit enter and click. And again, we're gonna use midpoint constraint to constrain this line to x-axis. Okay, and we will use collinear constraint to put this line, the right side of the rectangle, to the projected curve. So what's that for? If you look at this way, these two lines, they are flush to each other. Okay. Then fillets, 0.2 inch, 4 corners. Control Z, and okay, always better to just click 2 lines for me. Okay, finish sketch. Let's go to the next. Next one is simply the projection of the first. So I'm gonna show this datum, hide this datum, sketch on the third datum. Click OK. And here we can use project curve. You can now use connected curve. We can pick the first sketch, everything. Click OK. And that will be exactly the same as the first sketch. Now that's good enough for this. I'm gonna move down to the fourth datum. So next page. Okay, and sketch on the datum. Okay, that's not very nice. I want Y to be on top, X to be the other side. Okay, that will do it. Alright, now first we need 2 points. Actually, one is enough, the one with the dimension here. So I'm gonna use intersection point for this arc. So that's where the point is. You can pick this point, turn it into reference, then rectangle again, and width 0.5. Also the height is 0.6, and it's out of the point. So I'm gonna move this around. Be careful not to snap to anything on this sketch. Okay, and again, midpoint constraint from the orange to this line, to the left or right vertical lines. Then dimension from the point to the vertical line will be 0.05084. Okay, all green. Then fillet will be 0.2 in radius. So that's all for this sketch. Finish sketch, hide the datum. Okay, now we have 4 sections for this grip, and you can see the general shape already. It's like a wire frame for the swept. So lastly, we need to create a guideline for the swept. If you still remember what swept needs for generating a solid, so that will be the guideline. Okay, which you can see here. This one is a curve, 2 straight line, a curve, and the 2 fillet here. Why do we need fillet? Because the guideline for swept has to be tangent. So you cannot just use a straight corner here. Besides, well, let's create the sketch first, which is on XY plane. Okay. Besides, the tangent line will give you smoother surface. Alright, now we need a couple points here for connection. So we will use the intersection point again, single curve, and sadly you cannot pick them all and project once. So you have to do this one by one. Okay. Alright, now we got 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and we can pick this point, reference, pick this point, reference, that'll be reference. Okay. And a straight line from here to this point, to that point. The last one will be a 3-point arc. Okay. From this point to that point. I'm gonna press Shift F8, so or you can have a look. Just eyeball this curvature. Okay, and that's the guideline. We still need to make this tangent. So fillet 0.07 for this corner, 0.07, and 0.2 for the lower corner, 0.2. Hit enter, and that'll be all for this guideline. We can finish sketch now. For the second guideline, it will be from this sketch. Alright, let's go to the most complicated command so far. Okay, we need a couple sections and two guideline, which the swept is here. Okay, command. If you cannot find it, just go to command finder, and as you can see, I expand those lists. That's what you need to do also. Okay, so some explanation here. Each set, okay, each entry here represents one section. So you don't want to pick like all sections at once. You want to pick them one by one. So let's pick sections first. And also, if you notice, we have the orange curve for a section. We also have direction for the section. So look, if when I pick, there's an arrow here. If you reverse the direction, it goes the other way. And if I specify another origin curve, okay, look, the arrow moves to this section. So I want to pick actually this line. And swept works like a scan from from the first section to the next section. So for the next section, you want this orange curve to be aligned with the first section. Also, the direction should be the same as the first section. Let's add another section by clicking this button, add a new set. So let's then, here goes for section 2. You want to click at pretty much the same spot for each section. Okay, and if you click on the right side of the line, the direction will go to like this. If you click on the left side, like what I did now, it goes reverse the direction. So what do you do if you have this? As you can see, we have something here also. You can double click, you can click this button, reverse, but now it starts from this arc. So I want to specify the orange curve to this straight line. So it will scan from this point to next point. Okay, and add another set for the third sketch. I'm gonna click here and add the last set for the last one. You want to click on the straight line part. Okay, so that's the sections, and they started from the same position pretty much. Then goes to the guides. We will be using two guide curve. First one is the one we drew here, and right away you can see the shape. But you see this here, it's kind of out of alignment. So I want to add another guide curve to constrain the back of this grip. Now we need to add a new set. You don't want two different guidelines under the same set. The new set here, note the curve rule here. You want single curve, otherwise it's gonna pick the whole sketch because that's all tangent. Okay. So single curve, as you can see, it changes instantly. So it's much smoother now. So how do we make this even smoother? Here's the option. For the section option, you can use cubic. Okay, so it's like the cubic equation and the parabolic equation and the linear equation. Linear is straight line. Cubic is, of course, you have curved lines, so it will gives you a smoother uh, what geometry. Let's just finish here, and that actually looks pretty good. Let's say if one of the sections started from the wrong section, that's what happened. You can see the geometry actually scans from the end point of the straight line here. This line will matching the end point of this arc. That's why it's all twisted. So just bear in mind you need to align the that's the second section. You need to align the orange curve, as well as if some section is not well aligned, okay, you can move down to here, alignment. There is one option is by point. Now as you can see, okay, let's hide this. There's points that scans from between the sections. If I hover here, you can see this is better. So if you move this point like so, let's go back to the shaded. You can see it's twisted underneath, and that's the scanning point or alignment point. The 3D will be scanning from this point to the next section, exactly the same point. Well, it's hard to describe, but you want to put them at the same spot. If I put this in the middle point, you want to put those points in the middle also. And we don't usually need to go this complicated. If you look at this one is on the bottom straight line, this one is on the arc, so it might generate some irregular shape on the surface. So you can just move down to maybe the end point of this arc. It doesn't really matter, but just for a better looking on the geometry. So that will give you a smoother surface if you hide everything. Okay, now the last step is to unite everything we have. Let's show the extrude. Also show this extrude, the handle, hopefully, which is this one. Okay, not quite done yet. First, let's unite. Okay, unite everything together. Then we need to make this thing hollow in the middle. Okay, let's go back. Before unite, we need to make this rubber piece hollow in the middle so we can put this handle inside the rubber grip. What we do, we can reuse one of the sketch, this one. Okay, we're gonna show this and wireframe so I can pick this up. Extrude this outside shape of this sketch into exactly the same height of the original handle. And we're gonna use this to cut into the grip. you show results here, you can see it's already cut. Undo, show results. Okay, now it's hollow, and now we can merge or unite those together, if that's the way we do it. Or yes, well, guess we will unite them later. We still need to cut this open here, so we can insert another piece which is connecting, which is actually the connection bar we made in the second lab. So we need another sketch. Yeah, this is a pretty complicated part, and let's hide everything first. Hide the extrudes first. We don't need to hide those. Okay, so here it's gonna be referring to the slot. So in this sketch we need to project this curve. Project the single curve, this side, and the bottom and top arc. That's all. And as you can see, this line is vertical. That line is not quite, but it looks like it's perpendicular to this arc. So, and also, you look closely here, that's an offset from the projected curve. So, offset 0.05, 0.05. Hit enter. Pick the line, all three of them. Then we will draw a tangent line from this arc. Point on curve, go straight up. Just go outside of this first sketch, and I think that's good enough. And I'm gonna draw another line here, point on arc, straight. Try to make this perpendicular to this. So hover on this arc, come out, and lastly just close this loop. Trim off, then extrude. Extrude to a symmetric value of 1/8, and we're gonna use this to cut into the swept, as well as, let's see, where's the handle. Yep. Okay, so in this we're gonna pick the handle as well as the swept. Seems like we cannot pick both of them, so I'll just click OK first. Alright, and we will add something. Oh, we can just delete this first. Unite three piece first, maybe. So unite all the solid here, then we can cut into the big piece. Extrude this sketch, symmetric 1/8, subtract, pick the big body, and show results. That's pretty good. So okay, now that's pretty much all for this. We will, if you like, and you can see in the slides, the first slide, I guess, we do have some chamfers, edge blend you can use to make the geometry look much better. Okay, so I'll just do like edge blend here, and this one's way too big. And as you can see, I have this setting expanded here. I think by default those two are clicked. If you have those two clicked, and well, it's good now. Sometimes they will give you a patch, so the surface is not very good looking. Anyway, you want to edge blend here. You might also want to edge blend along this, make it smaller, 05, and okay, so edge blend this first. Edge blend those two first, as well as for the bottom. Otherwise, this edge will not be a tangent. Okay, then goes to the next 0.05. Okay, this side looks good, then goes to the other side as well as the bottom. Alright, then you can also make transfers. It's basically the same as edge blend, so you can make this maybe a little bit bigger here. Okay, and we can make the top another chamfer, and this obviously too big, so just keep doing this until you see fit. And you can also put teeth to this jaw. Alright, so that's pretty much for this part. It's a very long part, and be very careful for the swept command. Alright, thank you.